everybody? How's it hanging? How's it happening? You guys know what it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast, brought to you by MSOTD Rocks, where rock and metal thrive. Hey everybody, I hope you're having a great day, and if you're an emerging band in the scene, holy crap, you guys need to listen to this episode, because I get to talk to an incredible person called Matt from the band Chout out of Chicagoland area, Illinois. And we started talking about music, but what we really got into was everything that's going on right now with the coronavirus pandemic, and basically described what it might be like for not only emerging bands, but also like those bigger, more local bands, more of those regional bands. What might happen once live music comes back, and how to make sure that you are consistently in the forefront and in the best position possible in order to basically continue growing your band. So this is an incredible episode. So if you are a member of an emerging band, or if you're working in music of any kind, if you work for a venue, whatever it might be, please listen to this podcast that I have coming up with Matt from the band Chout. Are you guys ready? Because this is an energizing one. This is an inspiring one. Let's go. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast, this is episode number 4 of our slight, well, I'll say partnership, connectivity, whatever it might be, with MVK Music Group, talking with some of their bands. We got another one for you. This one, probably the closest one to me out of all the groups, because they are from the Chicagoland area. As you guys know, I'm from Milwaukee, so when it comes to, seeing these guys live once concerts return, won't be that far of a drive for me, so woohoo! So please welcome for the band Chout, please welcome Matt. So Matt, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right now. I mean, as all right as it can be. How's it going on your end?
It's okay. Just like with everything going on, I mean, I've been really doing nothing but working a lot. So like, as far as like, apart from like music and writing and recording, which has basically been my life the last like 5-6 months, I mean, I've just been working. So all I do is work, then I come home, work on music, and then I sleep, and then it's just repeat.
I'll say, don't worry, Matt. I'm pretty much in the exact same kind of realm it's been that way for the past 8 months, because it's wake up, go to work, come home, work out, then when we open up the gym, it's like, okay, then go to the gym and work out, and then come back home and then just keep working on this stuff, work on the podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, all that kind of stuff, just connecting with everybody. So I totally understand that, where it's just like you kind of get in this like it's like, it's going to be interesting to see what happens when this all breaks, because we're kind of so stuck in this routine already. Like, we're so set in it already that it's all of a sudden it's going to break. It's going to be fun because all of a sudden life can go back to normal, but it's like, oh, we had all that time to just write and work. Huh.
Yeah. I mean, I just try to think of the positives, and that's definitely one, is like just having the time to, I mean, like be, just kind of like the constriction itself and the simplicity behind it all kind of like allows me to really like dive into it when I want to. And other times I don't have to feel so guilty about just, kind of doing nothing. Like, but I mean, mainly my routine is like, it's just been that, like, I just do nothing and like feel like a madman, like scientist, like in a room with a lab,
I was gonna say, trust me, if I wasn't doing something like this, it'd be wake up, go to work, come home, work out, and then all of a sudden be sitting on the couch watching Netflix again and just go crazy, because it's like, alrighty, I've watched this. All right, I've watched The Office for like the 3rd time again, and then just what else are you gonna do? And I'm like, you know what, I want to do something new, but I was already doing this, so I'm like, you know what, this is the perfect thing to basically supplement all that time with, because if everything was, especially in the beginning, everything shut down, this is what I love to do, is everything around music. So why not just double down on everything? It's the perfect time to do it. Plus, when it comes to expenses, as much as it sucks that I wasn't able to go to concerts, I didn't have to spend the money on those, which, well, in one end is nice, because then I could spend the money on promoting all this stuff. However, the bad part about that was I couldn't go and just go ape crazy in a mosh pit, which I still miss.
Yeah. I mean, I missed the experience of just like, being social.
That
I,
too,
that
yeah.
that I mean, even if that really, like, if it wasn't even for live shows, like just getting outside and going to say, meet people at places.
Yeah, whatever it might be, whether it's going to, I mean, even just going to a live show or just something like, like going out to a bar and just not having to work, like, because I know they're open, but it's like not having to worry about any restrictions or worry about if you might catch the coronavirus or not, or just like going to a sporting event because, I mean, hell, once baseball started up, especially in the summer, it was like, oh, hell yeah, baseball come back, woo! No fans. Oh, no tailgating. What the hell, man?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel you. It's been a weird year for everything. It's definitely like it's weird, to never have experienced this kind of thing and then all of a sudden kind of just be thrown into it. And then it's I don't know. We're here now, but I'm really hoping that it just kind of starts to get better a little bit.
I think we're all in the same boat as well. But the one question I have to ask you around that is because at the time of, well, when we're recording this, it's about 8 months since basically the first shutdown happened, everything started. When this release, it'll be a little bit before 9 months into it. So my question to you is, during this time, with everything when it comes to writing music and working everything with Chout, do you feel like you've used the most amount of time that you could in the best way possible to write and work on stuff with the band and promote stuff? That's because, again, it's something where a lot of the leisure time has been spent not being able to do much. So again, I'm just asking about basically efficiency at this point.
I mean, yeah, I think that like we've used our time pretty well, especially when you have, multiple members in a band and you're not just like doing a solo thing and you have to kind of like work around everyone else's schedule. And when your whole schedule changes, everyone else's schedule is changing around it too. So, but like, yeah, we definitely had like our hiccups here and there as far as like planning, practices and stuff like that. There's people moving during this time. Things get pretty hectic, but like we started the year before Brendan left. Like we started the year trying to basically figure out what our next move was. So we knew by February, and we didn't even announce that he was leaving until I want to say like May or June. And so a lot of that time was just kind of wondering like, all right, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna like keep going, or are we gonna like completely rebrand? And since the beginning, a lot of the music was being written by the whole band. So it didn't really seem that weird to kind of just keep going and then like keep writing the same songs that we were already working on and, just kind of move some stuff around. But like, as far as the time goes, I mean, we pretty much have a whole second album written, um, you know, and the recording is one thing, because you kind of like, once you write something and then you record it, sometimes hearing it back, just kind of like having that playback, you're like, yeah, this is good, but it could be better. Like we could, do something more with this, kind of just like, it's just that continuation of like fleshing out ideas. You're trying to make a masterpiece. It's going to take a couple times. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we've got like more than a full length album worth of material that we're kind of just like sitting on, just kind of reworking, and we're getting close. So as far as like all the time that I've spent right now, it's like from now it's like just refining stuff, and hopefully by next year it'll all be out.
Okay, and well, the main reason why I asked that question in the end is because from what I've seen is there is a lot of people that when it comes to stuff like this, looking back at it once it's all over, there's going to be people that really, are in a different position they were before the quarantine started, before the pandemic started, to where they're going to be in the end. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be in the same position. And I'm not talking about people that, when are in positions of, like the service industry, the entertainment industry, where they're the professionals that are working in there, making like a weekly daily income, weekly salary, where all this got completely eviscerated because of this. Not talking about those people, because again, they all need our help right now, and that's why we want to get live shows back, so that not only we can get back to you guys playing, us enjoying it, but also get those people back to work as well, because hell, we miss them, honestly. But where I was going with that is especially like in terms of bands or just people that it's like, okay, you have all this time. What are you going to do with it? People are going to look back and think, oh, I had all this time. I wish I would have done this. 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 But then there's going to be people that are going to look back and say, man, during this time, yeah, it sucked because we couldn't go out and do what we were going to do initially, but we completely repositioned ourselves so that we took that time in order to continue to write new music, continue to rework the music, continue to refine it, continue to grow our brand, whatever it might have been. So again, that's what I was trying to get. It's like seeing if you guys were really working on that to make sure that you guys were kind of on the second half that where it's coming to look back at this time once it's all over and say, we really made the most of this time possible, even though the world kind of went to shit. We didn't say, oh, woe is me, I wish it was back the way it was. You said, okay, this is what it's like right now. How can we make the most of it for ourselves?
Yeah. And, like, are you saying as far as like growing as a person or just growing as a band, or like kind of just like?
I would say on that end, just more like for on your end, specifically growing as a band.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think that like as far comparatively as to what like we're writing now, and then what we first came out with, because when we started the band, our first album was like the first thing we ever put out, like we haven't even played a show yet at that point. We literally just like came out July 31st, 2018, I believe. We're just like, hey, this is our album. And then we played our first show like maybe a month afterwards. But since then, I think that a lot of the writing is starting to really change. It's still around that same like feel and the same emotion, because we're all the same people. We're still putting the same kind of like artistic influence that we had into it, but I think that the writing has gotten a lot better. Just like structurally, ideas, that feeling of having all that time has kind of like helped us really just like not have to worry about rushing anything or feel like we have to rush anything, because sometimes you can just kind of get sucked into like, all right, well, like I got to get material out now, I got to get content out now. But like I think that we've pulled away from a lot of that, which I mean is one thing. But when we do come back, like when things start to really open up again, we have all that stuff that's just like there and it's ready to go.
Interesting. Now I got to ask this question because it's just is making me curious, where now you've got all the stuff you've been working on, you've got all this content that you're sitting on, especially music wise. And when this all ends, I'm not going to lie, there's going to be a lot of bands, not only on the scale that you guys are, but on the scale of, the big boys in rock and metal, where I'm talking like bands like the Foo Fighters, they've got an album coming out in 2020, A Day to Remember, Rise Against, bands like that, where what they're going to come out with stuff and there's going to be attention on it. But when you guys come out with stuff, there's not going to be that same level of attention. So where the question is, do you guys have a plan in order to make sure that you get the proper attention on your stuff when it comes out, and potentially find a way to stand out amongst all that noise of all the other new music that's going to be coming out at that time?
Yeah, definitely. And, I think a big part of that, I owe to Maverick. So kind of just like setting up the proper, video dates as far as like promoting all of that stuff when, once that starts to, come into play. And basically just kind of like the marketing in itself is just a huge part of it. When we get there, it'll all be thought of, right now it's not something that we're trying to like basically, drag ourselves in, because we do want the content to be as best as it can. So like all of our focus is like, basically hyper focused right there. But yeah, I mean, I like to say that we have somewhat of a plan, definitely better than, the first release. But like, we released a single back in July, Stay Here. And, you know, we want to release another one before the album comes out, kind of to just like build up to it, you know, just say like, hey, we're still here. Like, hey, like we have this single. Um, and then, you know, kind of build up, you know, hype towards that. I think a lot of Chout personally, like a lot of our responses come from YouTube. I think YouTube honestly is probably a better place for us than like Instagram or Facebook. Um, you know, Facebook's kind of one of those things you have to kind of pay into it to get your best results. I feel like they definitely have a stranglehold on things, and especially they took advantage of that during quarantine.
Oh, yeah, they did. My bank account was not a fan of that.
Yeah, so, you know, when you're a starving artist, you have to do with what you can. But it's nice to have people that are around you that, you know what they're doing and, you know, can help you out. So, I mean, as far as like telling you a clear plan, I couldn't tell you anything because then I'd basically just be like talking out of my ass. But like, yeah, I mean, we're getting there. Definitely gonna have another single out.
Yeah, and Matt, just to clarify, the reason I asked that question was not to try and prod it like the plan out of you. The reason I asked that question was because when it comes to what could potentially happen in 2021, because I mean, hell, no one's expecting what happened in 2020 to happen. So who the hell knows what's going to happen next year and how this is all going to play out once live shows are going to be able to come back? Because it looks like the vaccine trials. I mean, we got multiple at the moment right now that we're shooting this. We got multiple candidates that are looking very good. We got one that looks like it's going to be approved for emergency use starting middle of December, and then looking at what right now in the U.S. what Dr. Anthony Fauci said, where a majority of Americans could be have the vaccine by middle of April. So I mean, we could potentially looking at summer where things really start to make that huge comeback. However, when I asked that question, it wasn't a prod and answer out of you. It was to basically get you guys thinking if you hadn't had one to really start thinking about it. But if you did have one, to say like, okay, you know, we have one. And the fact that you guys are connected with Maverick as well is a great way to go about it, because then their understanding of the situation, they know what's going on. And like you said, where you're focusing on YouTube more because you're getting the results there, you're doubling down on what's being successful or doubling down your strength instead of really focusing on, okay, this is weak. Why don't we make them all strengths? Why don't we make one a super strength and really focus on that if that's where you're getting the best results? Because if you're not getting results on Facebook because the whole, you know, basically the pay to play kind of style, yeah, then it totally makes sense, especially for like, you know, upcoming and emerging artists. It makes a lot of sense. And also shout out to Brian, because it looks like you got some work on your hands, Brian.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm trying to always keep Brian busy. But you know, that's a good question, because it's like in 2021, we don't even know how long it'll be into 2021 that shows will even come back, if they do. I'd like to say that like organically as a young band, that playing shows is like your best way of getting, you know, your stuff out there, especially if you're going on tours that are being well marketed and stuff like that. You know, you're bound to make, you know, more actual fan connections that way than kind of just releasing things online, I think. Unless, because I want to say, you know, like I'm a fully like developed like artist into the craft of like trying to be out there on the internet all the time, but that's just not who I am. I spent a lot of time basically just like isolate myself and like write a lot. I'm a quiet dude. I'm very shy. So like, but going into 2021, if there's shows, definitely get onto that like right away and just kind of start playing again, because that's what being a band is. You know, it's more than just kind of like making studio albums. You're actually trying to be out there entertaining people. But you know, either way though, if depending on how long it all takes, we're gonna have stuff out. There'll be things to listen to. You know, as a fan, if you're a fan of Chout. And I think that's just going to be the case. And then who will not, you know, who knows? Because I would love to do another live video again. You know, it was kind of like as a when you're working with like basically everybody in your own neighborhood, like it can kind of be a huge production. Especially if you're doing live video and you're like hooking up sound to everything, and then you only have one camera guy working on the whole thing. So like it can be a couple weeks of like just putting something, just one little tiny thing together.
Yeah, but if you get the whole neighborhood involved in it, then the whole neighborhood's invested, and then when it's ready to come out, they're going to tell their friends too, because hey, this is we did this, we worked on this, we want you to see this as well because we had a hand in this, and then that just brings in more attention to your band.
Oh yeah, definitely, and that was nice. I think that when we did do like the live video that we released back in August, actually no, it was September. What am I thinking? Back in September, we did have a lot of people, from our neighborhood actually tune in and watch it live on YouTube when it came out. So it was kind of cool. I wasn't used to it, so I didn't know that there was a whole like chat feature in YouTube where like when the live video is out, people can just kind of like sit there and talk about it. So that was kind of nice too.
Yeah, if you do a premiere style that works like that, it's kind of like just a normal stream like on Twitch or something like that.
Yeah, don't be fooled. I'm actually very technologically impaired. Literally all of my technology, just like know about is like all lies in Pro Tools, and that is it. I can set you up a damn good rig, and I can get that stuff running and sounding okay. But I just, YouTube and social media, I'm just kind of like, I'm just dumb.
But then that's where you get connected with someone like MVK Music Group, where all of a sudden they've got people that could easily help you out with that because they've got people that are dedicated for that. I mean, when it comes to what I like to have from my end, when I like to have people that were helping me out with social media as well with certain things, yeah, because there are going to be people that are better at Instagram than I am, better at Twitter than I am, better at Facebook than I am, better at YouTube than I am, and marketing and stuff that I am. And if it came down to that, that'd be great. Would be something that I wouldn't give up, and it'd be running these podcasts because I'm like, God damn, I'm good at running these fucking podcasts, in my opinion at least. But there's another question I want to ask you that was something that you brought up, and I've asked questions about this to a number of bands, and this again is just something to get your take on it, get your feeling and context on it, because you're talking about as a upcoming emerging band, one of the best ways to get your music out there is to play live shows and potentially get connected with some sort of tour just to kind of get around there. Now, here's where my question comes in because, again, we're going in the unknown in 2021, and something I'm seeing right now, especially with everything that's gone on, is we've got like, almost, 9 months into this shit to where, I'm seeing smaller independent venues shut down, and it's because they just can't survive in this environment right now where there's no shows going right on, and they're not getting any kind of assistance from the government either. Sure, there are venues that are able to survive on other means, but they're not all like those venues. Like here, like I've mentioned this many times on the podcast, the Rave here in Milwaukee has done a tremendous job generating revenue for themselves by selling a bunch of their old sign posters and putting them up for auction, doing a haunted house thing in around Halloween, which I went to. Fucking awesome. So they've done stuff like that, but where I'm going with this is the supply of venues, and I'm talking economics, the supply of venues is going to be down. And then when all of a sudden live shows are going to return, all the bands that released music this year, and all the bands that had released music right before this happened that were trying to get on tours to really promote it, and then bands that are going to be releasing new stuff, everyone's going to be going on tour. Everyone's going to try and play these live shows. Everyone's going to want them too, but the supply of stages is going to be limited. So my question to you is, how do you make sure that you guys are getting on stage, and not only getting on stage, but getting on stage in the best possible way that you can get on stage?
I'm sure that there'll be some sort of hierarchy to it, and I hate to say that because like I really don't believe in all that stuff. But I mean, initially that's just how it's going to be. We'll see. I mean, because a lot of the bands, national bands obviously have booking agents. So, if you're playing in a band that's paying to be there, like you obviously have a way higher chance of getting into those shows, especially when you're paying a booking agent to book those shows. But I mean, I just hope for, as far as like bands that are just trying to get their feet in, that they'll actually have places they can go to play, or, hopefully the opportunities are there where they can open up for more bands, because, if there's a big band touring, and there's enough slots for, upcoming local bands, hopefully it's not just like being given to other, national acts like immediately, because I think that'll be like a huge thing. It's kind of like it's just, it's a money making machine. So like when Metallica played in Chicago and they like asked for all these local bands to open up, they got like Local H, which is not like a huge. It's just not. They're not like an emerging local band. They've been around for 20 years. But kind of going into the whole idea set of like dealing with it, post, COVID, I think it'll probably be pretty rough, maybe for, a year or so. And hopefully, people that, had that mindset of opening up a venue before will be able to be in a position where they can open up another venue. But I mean, I think I've also seen, traditionally like places that were traditionally not venues started catering to live music, whether or not you're for or against like going to live music right now during this time, that's kind of like up to you. I kind of have stayed away from shows. I don't think it's just like a good position to be putting my band in, like trying to play shows right now when people are trying to get healthy, try to get better and get over with this. But when the shows do start happening, I'm sure it'll work one way first and then kind of start to, open up again for upcoming bands, because, if you're not seeing bands that are trying to be somebody, you're never going to get the chance to let those bands actually be somebody.
Exactly, and I think that's a good way to put it as well. And really, when it comes down to it, I know you're talking about or venues that initially weren't necessarily supposed to be those kind of venues, just starting to like make stages or just find a way to get that stuff. Because in the end, there's gonna be bands that are gonna want to play some really small rooms just for the fact of getting out there. Hell, I mean, because right before the shutdown happened, and this was like shit, I think this was March 14th or something. Because I was actually just outside of Chicago at a bar. I can't remember the name. It was like the Bauer House or Brower House or something like that. It was right outside of Joliet. I think because I'm like, I know because that's where you were in right now. I'm like, then you might know about it. I don't know. But I saw the band Kingdom Collapse. I've worked with them beforehand. I wanted to see them live. I'm like, this might be my only chance this year, and who the hell knows what's happening. So I went, and it was fantastic. And just seeing like they did not have a big room for it, but hell, it was a place to play. Why not go for it? So there's venues like that where, again, they're not necessarily fully venues, but they're going to be places for people to be able to go and play. And especially when live music comes back, because after people have been cooped up for so long, they're going to be craving this shit, especially like me. I'm going to be craving this shit. Once it opens up, hell, you might be able, you might see me at a concert like 3-4 times a week. Will my wallet like it? Will my bank account like it? No, I'll have a big frowny face on it, but yeah. I'm going to do it because there is no better experience for me. There's nothing that makes me happier than getting into a live venue, getting to a concert, and just, especially if it's like more punk rock, metalcore, jumping in that mosh pit. After I get hit for the first time, it's over. I am so damn happy. I'm just like, any kind of inhibition that I had, any anger, any problems, just go to the wind, because, man, who gives a shit? Everyone's just having a good time.
Yeah. Amen to that, man. That's definitely a way more optimistic view. But I definitely feel that. Like, I want to return to that really badly. And I want it to work out the best way that it can for everybody. I have absolutely no idea what that's going to be, but like, that's what I want. I just want, hopefully things will adapt to it, because we're always adapting. So we had to adapt to the situation that we're in now. When they said, oh, we can't do shows anymore. So, we started doing things on live, and that was nice for, it's still nice. It's still nice to be able to just like, you're just laying in bed, after you work or whatever. And you're just sitting there, like, you can just watch one of your favorite bands play a show on Twitch, or, release something on YouTube or whatever. Even if you're just scrolling on like Facebook, you can kind of just like tune into that. And well, it's not, the exact thing as going to a show. It's that adaptation of just having to be in that moment.
Oh, totally. Because even like with I've seen a lot of bands, they've done a lot of like the live stream stuff, the live stream shows. And for me, it's not the same as, oh shoot, there goes my headphones. Look at me go. Woo!
You're fine.
That is not what I was hoping for. So everyone that's hearing this, you're going to be hearing. Oh, but there we go. Okay. That's always something that I mess up on the podcast. I messed up something once, and there was that. So that's hilarious. But what I was talking about was when I've seen a lot of those like live stream shows, like but I haven't watched them, and the reason is because it's not the same feel as being there live. Like you get this completely different feel being there live. Like I would have loved to have watched the Ice Nine Kills one, or the Motionless in White one that people said was absolutely incredible, but I'm like, it just doesn't feel the same. I did actually watch after the fact. I watched the one that Rise Against It for Save Our Stages, because I absolutely love Rise Against. So I'm like, I kind of want to just hear something live from them, and it didn't feel the same, but it still felt pretty damn good just to hear them play live, even though I wasn't actually there.
Yeah, I saw them one time at Lollapalooza in 2009.
Really?
And definitely was a great show.
I've seen them a total of 9 times.
Okay.
Last time I was actually in Chicago at Riot Fest in 2019.
Oh, 2019?
Oh,
no,
yeah.
No. This was back in like 2009.
I know. What I'm saying is like because like you said you've seen him in 2009. Like I said, I seen him 9 times, but the last time was last year at Riot Fest. That was fun as shit.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, sorry. I kind of forgot like what you had asked.
Oh shoot! It was with live streams. It was talking about like kind of with that stuff where it just doesn't feel the same. So that's where when it comes down to people getting back into live shows, why not only there going to be a high demand there from the bands to get back on those stages, even with the less supply of stages than there were before the pandemic. The demand from the people to go to those shows is going to be there as well, because I mean, hell, a couple weeks ago, all of a sudden I got a message from the rave that the As I Lay Dying show, which was supposed to be in June of 2020, got rescheduled for March of 2021, got canceled. And I was like, oh, there goes some of my hope.
Yeah. I initially started the year with tickets to go see Thundercat. I think he was playing at the Riv. I don't know if you're a big Thundercat fan at all, but it was really sad because like the way that he announced the show being canceled was he posted an Instagram video that was just like a bunch of random images, and it was just like, this tour is canceled as fuck. And like it was just like, it was so upsetting. It was like one of the most upsetting things I've like to live through as far as like a concert fan. Just like but I don't even know. Like every time I try to wrap my head around any of the solutions, it just kind of like throws me for a loop, to be completely honest.
But then again, one thing that you said about what your band is doing, and this is where you guys have a route to success, in my opinion, where when you looked at what happened once this coronavirus thing started, you guys didn't think again of, we wish things were the way they were supposed to be. Instead of that, you said, okay, this is the situation now. How can we make the most of this for ourselves? So when live shows do come back for that first year, where maybe it's going to be rather tough to get ahead, like get on some of these stages due to the fact that, the big boys with the big booking agents might take up some of the spots just so those guys can play, or those girls can play, whoever it might be. You're going to end up taking a look at that instead of saying, oh, this isn't fair, this isn't right. You're going to take a look and say, okay, this is the situation the way it is now. As a band, we're in our position. What can we do in order to make sure that we are continuing forward the best possible way, so that we're not, just kind of getting lost behind?
Yeah. I'd like to think, when you're working with like a team of bands, sort of like a label, you can kind of, start throwing your own ideas around of starting your own things, because there's always a solution to find. It may not always be the best one for the moment, but I feel like sometimes when you're just in a shitty situation, you have to find a good way to kind of work your way out into the light, really, because when you're like stuck in this tunnel of just like not knowing what to do, you have to do something. You can't just sit there and do nothing. But I'm hoping like locally, especially if you're a band that like lives in a suburb, and maybe because not all bands live in giant cities, I would say. I don't know what the split is on that, but um, hopefully there's things locally that'll be able to help bands. Because if you live in a town that people want to just go out and see shows, after COVID, you'll probably have a pretty good chance of getting people into those shows.
Yeah, or just kind of get creative and maybe play some places that you didn't think of playing. One might be a big one is, especially here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, in the summer, church festivals. I'm not shitting you, like just because the church my parents belong to, every year the weekend after Labor Day, 4-day festival where it's just people come, they have a good time, drink a lot of beer, and listen to a lot of rock music. That's pretty much what it is. And a lot of times it's a lot of cover bands that show up as well. So what happens if some local bands show up and some bands that actually have a lot more substance behind them as well instead of just cover songs? Now, I'm not saying the cover bands are bad. What I'm saying is maybe we get some more originality in there. And then that could do something. Or one thing that I saw when I was at the University of Minnesota, when I was there for school, every single year, right before the end of the second semester, we did this thing called Spring Jam, which was like a week-long thing of just okay, there's some live music on every single night, but then Saturday it was a whole day thing. And they set up multiple stages in parking lots around TCF Bank Stadium where the Gophers football team plays. And I'm thinking about something like that where, it doesn't have to be something that's, super big in production. Hell, you could just find a way to literally build the stage in a parking lot, especially more like a suburban area too, where you might be, because you're going to have the space. Then you can just have people come in and literally have your own mini music festival at some point. It might be a lot of work, but then again, if you get a lot of bands in on it, you might be able to do it and do it for rather cost effectively.
Yeah, I mean that's basically how Kaya started. Just throwing shows in the middle of a fucking desert with a generator. I mean, I totally love the idea. I don't know, what would you do in the moment, because you kind of want to be creative with it. I think sometimes having if you're going to do something that's just on the spot like that, sometimes having a nice thing behind it would be cool, especially if it's scenery or I don't know, because I'm sure that some places you probably you would start a huge commotion and then it would get shut down.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, depending on where you do it, unless you have that already kind of pre-planned,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm not talking about doing this just willy-nilly. I'm talking about once, especially say, I'll just use this example. Say especially with everything that's supposed to be happening with this vaccine, where it's supposedly that a good majority of Americans, I'm using Americans specifically because we're both from the United States of America, are supposed to have, or looking to have this potentially end of April. So say shows come back in May or June. What's to say you guys, it's what's to say this can't be planned out in some way and have this promoted and put together and everything happen, end of August, early September. Then you've got time to put this together. Again, it doesn't have to be something that's super duper fancy, but it's just something where all of a sudden people are able to come and enjoy and have a good time. And now I'm getting ideas.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I'm sure that on the smaller scale, house shows will definitely become a huge thing again.
Shit, I might have to throw one of these festivals. See what happens.
We there was when I first started playing in live bands, had to have been 2013, 2014, and I played in a band that played this outside music festival that was 3 days 3 days long, where people were camping out, and it was just something that someone with huge couple acres of land, he just planned this out, and he was just yeah, I'm just gonna have all these people from whatever scene come out and hang out, and it was ended up being within during the daytime there was probably a good 200, 300 people there, and then 150 people staying the night just camping out. It's kind of ridiculous for not really having much promotion or having anything put behind it, and just having a shit ton of bands play from 11 in the morning to midnight, 1 a.m. Just basically literally middle of nowhere. Yeah, it was in a small town called Manhattan, which is like 30 minutes outside of me. It's all like farmland.
I actually had a buddy that was going to do that one year for his birthday. He was going to try and make a whole festival for himself and call it Jimmy Fest. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, but it was kind of the same premise as that, where it was going to be just in a field in the middle of nowhere. And it was going to be a one huge party. But I'm thinking about this as well, where it's just thinking from a standpoint of like the logistic possibility of this more within a urban and suburban setting, where you're going to be able to find, hopefully be able to find a place that has a parking lot large enough that might be able to hold something like this. But not only that, but if you find that place, there's going to be electricity, there's going to be running water, there's going to be logistics in order to be able to get people in, get people out, make sure that you like there's food service that's being provided, that there's bathrooms that are being provided, that there's water being provided. Like there's a lot of things that are potentially able to make this happen. Of course, is this going to cost a lot of money to start putting on? Yeah, but the return could be absolutely explosive in a way, all based on the fact that we'd be coming out of a pandemic and people are just craving to see live music. People are craving to see something, and you're giving it to them. And especially on a local scale, on a more local scale as well. Who the hell locally wouldn't go and see that?
Yeah. And I mean, there's probably some things that, on the other end that you got to think about too. Like, when they throw Lollapalooza at Chicago, they pay a shit ton of money to be able to do it, for one thing. And then they have to pay all that money for destruction of property afterwards. Then like, because, there's people walking around in the field all day, they have to pay all the money to like, keep the ground crew working on that afterwards, and just all those small details and the permits that they have, but obviously that's done in the city. So like, there's so many different permits they got to get, like, just to be able to do it. But, pending that you do get all those things, like if you had to, and I think that, yeah, I mean, it definitely could be something that would be great for a community. And then because it's good for a community, it could be good for the band, because you're getting people all that chance, you're giving those bands that chance to have, all that initial community support.
Yeah, and not only that, but then especially in a more urban area, I'm going to use where you're in Chicagoland area specifically, because you've got a lot more people there, and not only that, but you've got a lot more people that are closer within the city that maybe have some more swing in, more within the music world, because you might not know who shows up. You might get some record company guy to show up. You might get someone from a radio station to show up. You never know who's going to show up, and then all of a sudden, all it takes is just one person that has enough swing to just check you guys out, like your sound, and really get behind you. And all of a sudden, things just start happening. It's that potential for exposure too, and it's kind of like a showcase in a way.
Yeah. You definitely got to keep your head towards, the possibility of outcomes. Because even if something, kind of crazy like that doesn't happen, you still have all the other positives that, you've created through that. But I mean, yeah, it's definitely something that I think could be a real possibility. I don't doubt anything. I believe in complete randomness. Which, I mean, could be hindering at times.
Oh yeah. Even like just through this conversation, I'm already starting to run through my mind. I'm like, okay, where could this, like, especially for me, where could this work? What would I all need to get there? How the hell would I finance all this stuff? How could I make this happen? How can I get sponsorship for this stuff? Who the hell is going to have to help me with this? Like, I'm already running through my mind, potentially thinking about something like this. I'm thinking, alrighty, when can I make this happen? The middle of September of 2021. Like, my mind's already running on this shit right now. It's insane. You never know. All of a sudden, a couple months from now, you might see something like all of a sudden something in Milwaukee just outside Milwaukee is happy with a bunch of local Milwaukee bands, like an outdoor festival, like a one-day thing. And all of a sudden you see my logo on top that you're going to be like, is there any room for us?
Yeah.
At that point, just ask.
Chain reaction, man. Chain reaction. That's the only way that, if you want to create a scene, that's the only way that you'll be able to do it, is having everybody pitch in.
Yeah, and it's something where it's like, I know it'd be tough to kind of make that call right now, just due to the fact that we'd be coming out of a pandemic and people might still be dealing with a lot of financial strain. However, However, a lot of that might be in terms of trying to pitch it to potential sponsors to get some money from them for it, so that, just basically helps us out, and then we kind of mitigate some of those costs on that front.
Yeah. Are you talking like as far as like investors?
I'm investors, sponsors, like all of a sudden, like, okay,
Yeah.
like we have a stage, and all of a sudden, like, you put their logo up on the stage, like up on the front of the stage or something like that. Like, you got the stage up top, and all of a sudden you got the drop down right away. All of a sudden, boom, logo right there. Flyers, everything. Anytime anything gets printed, promoted, always put their logo on it. And honestly, if it helps get something like this off the ground, all of a sudden more local bands are able to show off their stuff to a larger crowd. Hell yeah, why not do it? Shit, I could even do it indoor. Oh, now I'm getting another idea. Now I'm getting another idea for potential indoor. See if the big venue here, the Rave, would want to be in on something like that. Literally create their own festival and basically make it all around emerging acts. It like all, not only just rock and metal, but all throughout music. Not only in the Milwaukee scene, but expand it even further to bands out of Madison and bands out of Chicago as well.
Yeah, I mean, just like because you could potentially have a shit ton of bands play, and you could hold more than one if it goes well. So
yeah, and like if I'm thinking like especially with the Rave, I mean they got 7 stages within that venue alone and 3 big ones. So it's like holy shit! And people could constantly be flowing through all different parts of the venue as well. Plus they have that venue security is very good there in terms of crowd control. So I don't think they'd have a problem with that. Plus, they always had Sad Summer Festival there almost every single year. So I know they're able to do this. So it's like, holy shit, this might actually fucking work. Even on an indoor setting, which means I don't have to worry about fucking weather.
I've only been to the Rave Eagles Club. Like, I've only been there like once. And you probably never guessed who I actually went to go see there.
Dare I even try?
I mean, you can try. It's very like, I don't know. It's not heavy music by any means.
Oh, I was gonna say if like you were gonna be like completely unconventional, my first guess is gonna be you saw Tech Nine at the Rave.
No, I mean it might as well be.
Might as well.
But no, I went and I saw Ween there.
Ooh, really?
Yes, it was a great show actually.
Was it what level was it on there? As if you can remember, because there's the ballroom level, the club level, and the basement level.
I think it was on the bar level. So it was like in the big stage. I mean, I don't know. I haven't like walked through the whole thing before, so I don't know like how big the other stages are. I just remember the whole like it was like a whole dance floor, the whole everything. It kind of reminded me of the Aragon Ballroom from Chicago.
Yep, then you're in the ballroom because I've been to the Aragon once and I absolutely loved it. I'm like, holy shit, this reminds me of the Rave, but like a lot more eccentric and more gothic at the same time too.
Yeah, no, I saw George Clinton at the because I've only been to the Aragon once, and I saw George Clinton there, so that was like one hell of an experience.
Yeah, I saw when they were doing their God, it was it was the shows that were right after Thanksgiving, right before Christmas. I cannot remember what they call them. It's gonna kill me, but I saw it was Papa Roach and Rise Against one night, and I went to go see him, and it was so much fucking fun.
Nice. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
The night we stole Christmas.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. And then like I think Congress used to do something too. I don't even know. I haven't heard of a show at the Congress in a while though, so I don't even know if they still like if they had been doing things like that recently.
Honestly, who knows? I just hope that once live music comes back, like all this stuff ends up roaring back as well. Because holy crap, like I again miss so much of this. Not only from the larger scale stuff like Riot Fest or like Louder Than Life stuff like that, or on like a venue of a bigger scale like the Aragon Ballroom, the Armory up in Minneapolis, or the Rave here in Milwaukee. But even on those smaller venues as well, and those really small stages, just due to the fact that you find so many incredible artists there that you have no idea about. And you just get into them because you really connect with their sound, and all of a sudden you get to meet the band afterwards, and all of a sudden you start sharing their music and people start getting into it. It's all like that chain reaction stuff. I mean, word of mouth is still a huge thing. It just sometimes word of mouth ends up in type.
Yeah. And I'm sure that, with like them trying to schedule all these, shows for bands that are trying to get back at it, because there's some venues I'm guessing, even like the, more like club style venues that probably do like open mic night things, things like that. Like they'll probably just be scheduling more shows rather than like the extra stuff.
Yeah, because when it comes to, because think about that too, it's like if they do like the open mic night kind of stuff, yeah, you're gonna still be able to get people in there, but when it comes to scheduling shows, like you can, I think the potential to make more money is off of that. So
Yeah,
and those places that schedule that stuff, they might be really hurting at this point, so that might be what they go towards. So that might be able to mitigate some of the lack of supply of stages. Might increase that
yeah,
a little bit, and then you're gonna be able to. And then different people are going to be showing up to a lot of different places. And this just doesn't pertain to rock and metal either. This pertains to all genres of music.
yeah. And then, because I mean, obviously venues don't just cater to one specific style usually.
Oh no, if they did, they would end up going extinct. I mean, gotta
Yeah.
remember, what was it? There was a great episode of Bar Rescue if you've watched the show, because I used to watch with my dad all the time, and there was a punk rock bar up in Seattle, and all the owner wanted to do was like punk rock this, punk rock that. That's all he wanted to do, and it was losing a shit ton of money on it. And not only that, but the bar was just a complete shithole. And then all of a sudden Taffer comes in, it's like doesn't want to necessarily change it away from the whole entire rock thing, but doesn't want to have it specifically designed just for punk rock to show up. And the guy wouldn't change it, so Taffer just got up and left. Like, if you're not gonna if you're gonna change it back after I change it, why the hell should I even go for it in the first place? And it just makes sense because, I can see you kind of going with more of a niche in there. Like, you're going to get bars and venue, like basically it's mostly like bars and that kind of style where they're catered more towards one style of music, but it's not a subgenre. It's more of a large overall scoping genre. So you're going to get bars that are really catering more towards that country music crowd. You're going to get places that are more catered towards the hip hop crowd. You get places that are more catered to the rock and metal crowd, but you got to include the subgenres in there as well. You can't just stick with like, oh, we're a thrash metal bar. It's Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, Megadeth, and nothing else. You're not going to get anywhere with that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I say that, but then I think about like opening a venue that would be like nothing but just like avant-garde.
It might go well for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I would really try. I would put out as much as I could. Just get like as many like just like cigarette smoking people in there, just like listen to avant-garde, like just like weird like French music, but
yeah, but like I'll use a couple of examples too. It's just like I know this was in 2019. I was in Daytona with my dad for his 60th birthday. We went to go see the Daytona 500 on his 60th birthday. It was freaking awesome. But beforehand, like the night beforehand, because the bike rally was going to show up there like a week or two after we were there, so a couple of bars in Daytona Beach were already set up for this stuff. And this is what they were the whole entire year. So they're all that biker style bars. So you're going to get a lot of hard rock and heavy metal from the 70s and 80s. So like we went to these bars and it was just like they were super successful off of that niche. But again, you're catering to a very specific kind of people. But when it comes to the music, you're catering to a specific kind of music. However, you can go in many different directions with that, with how many subgenres are there, especially with rock and metal.
Yeah. I mean, I couldn't even tell you why certain places would choose to do that. It never really made sense to me. Because, I mean, your chance of the same person returning to 2 shows in 2 weeks is probably not as high as it would be if you had just different music there and trying to get like a bigger return from like a wider variety of people.
I do understand it as well because, again, thinking about it, it's if I went with a much more diverse musical sound, it's like then I'm just it's a music venue instead of just like kind of like that hard rock that rock and metal bar kind of that country bar kind of thing. Like if I'm focused solely in on just music, it's like, yeah, then I'm a music venue. You could get an alt rock artist there, you get a metalcore artist there, you get pop rock, country, hip hop, you get pop music, whatever it might be. You get EDM even at some point. And I can see where you're coming with that. However, there are also times where, but it's a very specific kind of location. Location is key, and also just how you present yourself is key as well, where some of those like biker bars, they can really thrive off of that in those venues because you're getting the same people to show up over and over again. It all depends upon all this different stuff. So it does work in success in some places, But when you look at it in an overarching thing, you want to have, like, if you're going to open a music venue, you're going to want to have it more diverse in terms of the sound that's coming in.
Oh yeah, and that's totally, you're right. I mean, it's like it's location. Like a lot of it, you're probably not gonna have as many like genre geared towards like genre geared like venues in the city. I mean, they exist, don't get me wrong, but definitely not as much as like they're probably nowhere near as successful as the ones that are like just trying to have shows.
Yeah.
Good shows.
Or like if you go like if you've got a very genre specific kind of venue out in the middle of, let's say, out more in towards a rural area where you got a bunch of different communities coming in, but if they all really pertain to one style of music or one genre of music, then you could be able to pull it off because you're getting the same people that come in all the time, and you're playing the stuff that, or you're getting the bands that are playing the stuff that they really like and they really connect to.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure it happens.
It happens, but I know what you're saying. Like when it comes to the city itself, you're very rarely going to be able to succeed like that because, say, I'll use the punk rock bar as an example because I love punk rock. Don't get me wrong. But am I going to want to go to a punk rock bar twice or 3 times a week to see a show? No. And the reason is because in the city, there are so many other options that I can go with, not only for live music, but just entertainment in general. What if there's a band there that I might be interested in seeing, but all of a sudden I've got a bunch of friends, we're going to go tailgate and we'll see the Brewers and Cubs play at Miller Park. What do you think I'm going to do? I'm going to end up going with my friends because, hell, I'm going to end up having a good time there anyway. And when it comes to the venue, I can always go see a show a different time. And it's going to be, I know it's going to be punk rock. But if it's something where it's, say all of a sudden on that same day, or like in that same week, all of a sudden, okay, I went to a show, but then I was going to the baseball tailgate. Now they might have a completely different band on that night, a different genre. Say it's a pop artist for some, like doing some pop music. Would I want to go to that show? No. Are other people that didn't go to the show on the day that I went going to go to that show? Absolutely. So in the city, it's just, you have so many more options and you have so many more people that like so many different things. You got to make sure that if you're a music venue, you got to make sure that your stages are diverse, which, circling back to how it affects Chout in this instance, in 2021, when live shows come back, hopefully, damn you, COVID. Had to do that, as I always do. But it's just something where some venues where you're not necessarily sure would ever even have music on them might really be shifting towards that because not only the money they bring in for the venue, but the amount of people that just bring in general.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely would have no issue, like, as a band playing at those kind of, like, like those kind of opportunities, like playing venues that aren't necessarily really catered towards that. Like, I would still be down. I mean, I still have that, like, that old school, like, DIY, like, mentality of doing that, I don't think that I need to, like, be playing on a big stage in order to have a good time, in order to really connect with people.
And here's another thought as well that just popped into my head, where you're going to get a lot of those bands a lot of the bigger bands are going to be playing at these bigger stages that there might be less of. But not only that, but how much of a production that they put on. Take a look at stuff like what Guar would do, or what Ice Nine Kills would do, or like Motionless White. I mean, I'm just thinking about bands that have, as much as I love their production as well, it's just there's a lot of it. Metallica, Rammstein, just all those bands. So when they're able to come back, they're going to want to get back some of the money that they weren't able to make in 2020. So those prices might go up rather steadily and rather steeply. And then people might not want to go live shows, but they might not want to go and spend that kind of money. So they're going to end up looking at more of the local scene and see what happens. And if you're going to be on a smaller stage, doing more of a DIY thing, that's going to be a lot more accessible to them for their wallet. Holy shit, you can get a lot of people going that way.
Yeah. I mean, you can only hope. I mean, like, I would definitely choose, people to go see more live shows locally than have to basically just be the person that's going to, like, save $1,000 to buy 4 tickets for whatever.
Yeah, like save $1,000 to go see Rammstein at Soldier Field.
Yeah. I mean, it's nice to have that experience, but, like, just kind of, especially dealing with the aftermath of something like this, like, you should be more inclined to want to go, like, be within the community, there's definitely people that, they'd love to live that for that big experience, but like, I think I'm more of a community person. I'm not always necessarily the one to be like out and about everywhere. I don't know like everything that's happening all the time, but like, I think that it's important for people to try to take part of. So, I mean, even if it's just like live shows that are the main cause of that, like that's more than okay with me.
Yeah,
I'm
because
sure people, like you said, people probably won't have that, like, that kind of money to be spending on things like that.
and again, this is all speculation too at this point. There's so many things to think about. However, thinking about this now is going to prepare you for when that happens, because you already have all these different thoughts in motion, all these different ideas in motion for all these different types of scenarios. And what's to say that one of those scenarios starts playing out that you've already thought of, and you're able to maximize what you're doing as a band on top of that?
Yeah.
Man, you can really see
It's
my,
definitely something.
I was say, you can see my
Yeah.
econ degree coming out here.
Yeah. Um, it's definitely, I think it's something that all bands should be thinking about, no matter how big or no matter how small. Like, if you're trying to be successful in this industry, like, you should be thinking about what the future holds in this.
Oh,
Everyone's future is different, but like, just at least having something you can go off of.
Yeah, because you never know what it might be. I mean, you never know what that future might hold. All of a sudden, like for you guys, because you got a whole album's worth of material ready to go. However the world ends up turning out over the next couple months depends upon how you start releasing it. And you're not waiting. You're not like so set on a certain day, which actually at this point I absolutely love, because you're letting things happen, you're letting things play out so you can figure out when's the best time to start doing this stuff. You're not going to just say, okay, we're set, we're going to release it on this day, and let's say, I'm just going to use hypothetical, say you're going to release it someday in January. You're not set in stone on that, because what happens if January comes and all of a sudden shit gets worse and we go full total lockdown? Then it's like,
Yeah.
what's going on here? But then again, you could play it off and really work a lot more on the social media game on that point. However, you're letting this happen so that you guys are able to do this not only to the best of your ability, but also maximize on your strengths to make sure that this is as successful as it can be.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I just would like, would like to get back to that like normal way of trying to just play shows and do it that way. But I like, kind of going back to your first question from the start was like, what have I been doing with this time? I think that like is something that needs to be a huge part of it. It's just kind of like knowing when things do start, happening again, what you're gonna do, what's your plan.
Yeah,
And to be honest with you, I don't even think that I didn't even get that far. Like, it's something that I think about, and it's something that like I know is a reality. It's just a matter of like that uncertainty has been so like just creeping.
It has, but even on this podcast as well, it's like, even if you weren't like, you had an idea, like you thought about it, but you hadn't thought in depth about it, I think we kind of took care of that for you in a little bit of a way. If we didn't take care of it fully, we definitely got the ball rolling on it.
Yeah, thank you for the therapy session. I enjoyed it.
It's again, like I said, even before we started, it's the focus is always on the music, but how the conversation plays out is all up to whatever happens. And it's like how I like to hear people when they talk about writing music, where it's like they come up with an idea and they let everything dictate itself. They don't try and force anything in there, which is pretty much what we did here. We didn't try and force anything in. We just kind of let it happen. We started talking about what you guys were doing during this time, during the shutdown, during all of a sudden getting into potentially going live shows beginning or sometime next year. And then got into all these ideas of, okay, how as an emerging band can not only you guys, but other people listening to this start thinking about what they're going to do in terms of releasing stuff, in terms of live shows, in terms of how to make sure that they're getting the most out of the situation that they're in, instead of trying to think about what they want the situation to be working on the situation at hand instead.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the bands that like really want to be serious, and I'm speaking basically from like, bands that are still starting out, or, even bands that are around like our level, or, higher, to the highest bands. Like, it's about knowing how you're going to bounce back. And I think like that's probably going to be the biggest battle for everybody, but every part of the industry is knowing how to bounce back.
And also but what keeps you guys right now as a little bit of a forefront on this is the ability not only to bounce back, but the ability to adapt to whatever situation comes your way.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's a gigantic key going forward, again, because of the fact that who the hell knows what's happening?
Definitely, it's been so uncertain, and like I feel like I've just kind of been letting my head like run in the clouds, kind of like with the creative side of things, where I'm kind of blissfully enjoying the time to just be an artist, like, and write. And it sucks because you gotta have like life experience to be able to really like put that into your work, and even that part of life has kind of dwindled, because like if you're just kind of like going home and working all the time, it's really not much to write about.
True, but there's so many different. I was gonna say there's so many different emotions though you might be feeling in through this because like just kind of having like this complete more mundane kind of a lack of social interaction, like personal social interaction, that could completely change up the whole entire game, because you might be talking about stuff that is not only completely different that you've ever experienced, but so many people have experienced that as well, where the connection to that kind of music and that kind of message that you're trying to put out there is going to be so easy to work with from a fan's perspective.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, it's probably pretty short-sighted of me to say that there's nothing to write about, but like, I think like as far as like Chout's music, a lot of like what we write about is kind of connecting to that human experience, and kind of like dealing more so with like the raw emotions rather than like picking apart like big giant world issues. There's a time and a place, but I think as a band, it's always just kind of been about trying to connect to people's, emotions, as far as like individuality. So it's a big part of like our process and how we write like our lyrics and how that like forms our music. So like kind of dealing with like the dullness of all this is kind of like, I'd say like our material that we're releasing now is so much heavier. It's so much like darker and like it's, I don't want to say it's depressing because I don't want to make it sound sad, but it's like it's like
it's more emotionally heavy.
Yeah, it's emotionally charged for fucking sure.
Yeah, but when you're talking about like kind of going through the human experience and the raw emotion that's behind it, like, it's a complete change of what it was from the beginning of the year till now. So talking about that whole entire change and really experiencing that, it's going to give you a different perspective on things. And then when things start coming back, it's going to give you another different perspective on things. So again, I'm not necessarily saying fully go for that, but being open to leaning into something like that could potentially create some incredible music for you guys.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like just allowing yourself to even think about these kind of things is nice. Honestly, I'm feeling kind of inspired already, and like even after tonight. Like it sucks because we started late, and like I had literally like I came home from work today and I was so like dead and tired. I fell asleep and I had completely forgotten about this. And then like I woke up to the messages and I was like, oh shit, like I totally like I blew this, like, and I felt so bad. But then like now I feel like it was like one of those moments where I just like woke up from a dream, and now I'm like having all these like different perspectives.
Or are you still in the dream?
I might as well be.
I'll say one from something like, oh shit, I totally forgot about this. All of a sudden, oh shit, I'm inspired as hell about this.
Yeah, it's nice. It's nice how life can work out that way.
No, we basically did a complete 180 on that bad boy.
Yeah, I like to stay open-minded. Sometimes things will just happen the way they're supposed to happen.
Hey, staying open-minded is just going with the flow, seeing how things were supposed to happen, led to the best vacation ever. Me just going over to Croatia and then to Amsterdam for a little bit. That was fun. So being like open to just experience, having that open mind to just trying different things. Holy crap, you get so damn far with that. So that's a good like message to have to this podcast. Not only just like being like just having that open mindedness to not only what's going on right now and what's going to happen in the future, and just being open to what's happening, instead of just focusing on what you want to be And but then really focusing on how to maximize what you're doing with the situation that's given, but then also just in other experiences, just being open to them, just letting things happen how they do, because if you force some things could easily go, things seem to go bad when you really try and force it. If you just let it happen, you can find yourself in some incredible situations.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a big part of how I live my life. I don't try to force anything. I just kind of like, I like to really live in the moment. I'm definitely one of those that's like, I got my 5-year plan or whatever. Let's see how far that goes. But like, living that day to day is so important, especially as an artist. I don't think that like you can have your head clouded by so much like past or like future stuff in order to actually like just be there.
Yeah, kind of the good old focus on the now, but also I live my life a quarter mile at a time. But I didn't say that anywhere like Vin Diesel. I got to be like, I live my life a quarter mile at a time. That was more Sylvester Stallone. Okay, I cannot do accents outside of like Bill Clinton, so I'm sorry. Or weird Michael Jackson going, stuff like that.
But yeah.
But man, like going from somewhere it's like, oh shit, I forgot about this, to all of a sudden, oh shit, I'm inspired as hell. That is the mark of an incredible podcast, sir. So, oh yeah.
You got the thumbs up for me. That's pretty cool.
Oh,
I like that.
Oh, hell yeah. Horns up, thumbs up, whatever it might be. Well, or surfs up, dude, whatever it might be. So, Matt, before we close this out, when it comes to this, I always like to give whoever I'm interviewing the final word before I do my final remarks. Also, like kind of like their last word away. So, whatever you want to talk about, plug, whatever you want to say, the floor is now yours. So, sir, go for it.
All right. I mean, basically just want to say like to all the people that do follow us, basically it sucks because like I don't think that we're present enough on our social media, and we haven't been during a lot of this, so it kind of like there's a lot of uncertainty even there, but just knowing that like we have a lot of good stuff coming and hopefully it'll be released. I want to say, given the time, even after the things that we've talked about, like spring seems like the most like reasonable time that you'll be hearing Chout's second album. And then, yeah. But I mean, there's definitely going to be like a single before that. So yeah. And then hopefully you'll be able to come see us at shows. Hopefully we'll actually be able to tour and actually go to different states again, because that's one of my favorite parts of as a musician, is just like being out there and being able to like see different parts of the world, meet different people, play shows, meet different bands in different areas, all different types of things, and then it even comes down to like meeting people like you that do podcasts and stuff. So
and then
thank you for having me on here.
Oh, you're very welcome. Then it'll come down to me actually meeting you live at a live show. And if you see the weird guy in a brewer sweatshirt like, hey man, what's up? That's just going to be me.
Yeah. You'll be seeing me probably half asleep.
Well, I will close with some of these remarks, but this will be my last question to you, Matt. And it's this. Do you like beer?
Yeah, on occasion, yeah.
Do you like anything else to drink particularly? How about that? That's a better way to put it.
I'm a big water and coffee drinker.
Big water and coffee drinker. Okay, reason I ask is because whenever I enjoy a podcast immensely and I want to go and see the band live when concerts return, because again, damn you, COVID. Yeah. I'd like to make a little bit of a promise to that, to make sure that there's a little bit of an addedness to it. And because you're more of a water and coffee kind of guy, so I'll make this promise to you. When I see you guys live for the first time, it's not an if, it's a when. First coffee's on me.
I'll take a beer too. I mean, you don't gotta see,
Fuck it, then first round's on me. That's usually what I go with anyway.
Yeah, I like whiskey too. So whiskey's a big favorite of mine.
All right, first round's on me, because that's usually what I go with. And then we'll close this out with this. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, if you are following Chout on all their social media platforms, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, here on YouTube, well, if you're watching the video on YouTube, if you're following on Spotify, Apple Music, where you can buy their merch, their website. If you know about all that stuff, that's great. But if you don't and you're not following them, what the actual hell are you guys doing? Because that's a real question. And you're probably wondering, oh man, where can I find all the links to all their stuff? And I'm going to tell you exactly where. It's in the description of the YouTube video or in the description of the podcast, again, on Spotify Podcast, Google Play, iHeart Radio, because I'm going to put every single link in there for you so you guys have no excuse not to find these guys. And for all the Chout fans or listeners that are already following it but not following me, take a look at the links even further below that because that's all my stuff. So please follow us here, MSOTD Rocks and the Chord Progression Podcast. You will not regret it. So Matt, on that end, especially with that promise, I cannot in good conscience end this with a goodbye because that is way too final, finito, that's it, whatever. But with that promise, I can't say that. So I'm going to end with my classic because I always end it this way because, well, I never want this to be the only time I see a band and meet them. I'm going to end it with this. See you later.
All right. I'll see you.
See you, bud.
Take it easy.
Well, folks, that's my interview with Matt from the band Chout, and that was an incredible episode, let me tell you. So remember, please follow Chout on all of their platforms. Buy some merch from them. Again, all the links are going to be in the description below, and also big thank you again to MVK Music Group for helping us set up not only with Chout, but along with the Dev 7 Stone Riot and with Young Other as well. We've also got a couple more coming up as well that we're working with them, so be sure to stay tuned as we have many more great episodes coming up for you in the future and going into 2021. But at this time, I'm going to have to say this. That's going to be for me today, guys. Thank you for watching and listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My MSOTD Rocks, where rock and metal thrive. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one of these episodes with a big, healthy, and hearty see ya. Yeah.